Yeah, hi people. Moino waiting back here again as always and as usual. You can see what time it is based on the header of this video as always and as usual. Colorful tales, so to speak, from the third world. Now what I mean by that is generally speaking, we all know that the third world isn't exactly the most valuable of places, to put it that way. But still, a good deal of people either forget or they can't wrap their heads around what I'm about to say, and or they underestimate exactly how devoid of value or how lacking therein the third world is. So yeah, if you take it all in, you're going to be like, yeah, yes, exactly. Sub-zero like a value, like minus anywhere between 0 and minus 500, I want to say. Yeah, so think of essentially like winter, the coldest winter you've ever experienced, like minus 50, minus 60. But convert that to the living standard of any nation or state. So yeah, I am simply going to highlight some things. Give me a moment. I'm simply going to I'm simply going to share some colorful tales, like I said, just as a reminder so that people don't forget the aforementioned. So yeah, definitely stuff to keep in mind. Sometimes people need a refresher more often than not. Back when I was still in the third world, well, the sixth world, but still on paper, the third world. Um, Things that I can share with people. Example number one. Yeah, when I was there, I have had taxi drivers outright beg me and or petition me for money along the lines of, hey, Moreno, I'm gonna have to ask you for financial support again. The reason it was again is because I made the awful mistake of actually helping out said taxi driver because I said to myself, you know what? I've known you for a good deal of time, for years. I, let me just do you a favor because I know you have known you that long. But of course, as is customarily the case, um, for getting my own money back, I essentially had to chase the guy, as I literally had to essentially chase my own money. You know, also generally speaking, not a good idea to lend money to people. Don't do it, especially in the third world. Never, never. Banks are the ones that give out loans, not people. So don't do so if you don't want to find yourself stuck more often than not, regardless of where you are in the world, in the same position. Not to mention the fact that it's not a good habit, plain and simple. Another taxi driver came all the way to my house to beg me for money. As in, can you please at least give me half the money on a monthly basis? And long story short, I told the guy to F off, you know, in a manner of speaking, not literally. So yeah, moving on. I remember having seen the following. It's the center of town. It is a weekday, so a general working day. Relatively crowded in the center of town. And a little a mother walks past with her 5-year-old girl or 6-year-old girl. The girl says, "Mommy, I need to go to the bathroom." And her mother asks her, "What do you need to do?" Number one, so I need to pee. And the mother tells the child, "Just shove your underwear aside and go right here." Yes, you heard that correctly. And the little girl proceeded to follow the instructions of her wise mother. I was in a taxi and I saw it all unfold while I was driving past. And the girl ended up urinating right there in the middle of, on the sidewalk, in the middle of the sidewalk, in the middle of town, the center of town, while at least 200 to 300 people are just shuffling past. Not even I have literally never even seen stray animals do that, and yet something like that still happens to what are supposed to be people, mind you. Example number three, my very first job. Literally the very first job I worked. My income, this was in 2007, so centuries ago by my standards, officially on paper, 17 years ago, 18 years ago. I made $100 American dollars or the equivalent thereof per month. You heard that. So $100, €100, £100, or the equivalent of that. A month, 8 hours working Monday to Friday. Well, just plain approximately 5 days a week. Could be six, could have been 6 days. I can't really remember. Now, you might say, that's not all too bad. Depends on the cost of living. Exactly. I fully agree. Wouldn't be a problem if everything was $1, €1. Sure, no problem. If I could rent a house for like $25 or euro, well, sure, no problem. That's quite decent. It stacks up, it balances itself out. Definitely. But of course not, because all the houses that people have seen me live in over the course of my life, these houses are rent-wise are at the very least $300 or euros or the equivalent thereof a month. So imagine making 100 a month and you spend at least 15 on transportation and another 20 on utilities a month. So food and whatnot. And the very cheapest place you can find is your entire income for the month. That's what time it is. Now, what the people look like in these locations. I can't really come up with a good example other than people that remember the cartoon movie Madagascar. Imagine a real life version of that, and imagine that the animalistic characters in that movie are actual people, at least on paper. Let me see. Next example. I once had a, so to speak, cousin that told me that in his neighborhood, which was not the best, so yeah, remember that, a neighborhood that's not the best in the third world. And he told me that he once did laundry and he hung his laundry outside, right outside his house or living abode or wherever he had lived in, whatever he lived in. And he went inside for 5 minutes, and then when he came back out, all of his laundry was gone. So his laundry got stolen right after he was done washing it. So it's completely wet and moist and everything. Hanging on clotheslines. Yes. I remember ages ago, I used to, when I lived in a one-bedroom apartment, I wore flip-flops. So think the flip-flops that cost maybe $5 or 5 euro cents or the equivalent, or 5 pence. Like really the cheapest bottom of the bottom flip-flops that you, for example, wear in a bathroom for some reason. And I used to leave them outside, and guess what happened to them? This was, I think, 2012, maybe. Of course, it got stolen. Someone stole my flip-flops that are literally only 5 cents in any international currency, major international currency. Yes. Yeah, of course, this was way before I was what the world knows me for, what all of you know me for. No, I was essentially, so to speak, the average person in the third world, if you want to classify me as such. And last example, I did an interview on the colorful cesspool belonging to the Netherlands called Suriname, where I am technically on paper from, but not in actuality, obviously. To anyone that has eyes and then some. But I know that most people have never heard that interview. There is no reason that they would have heard of that unless they have an interest in said cesspool. Um, so yeah, I'm going to summarizingly or in a summarized fashion share the following that I mentioned in that interview. Um, the reason that in the third world, generally speaking, you cannot have, for example, public bathrooms, specifically unattended, unguarded public bathrooms, even with guarded ones or attended ones, it's still somewhat of a challenge, but it's at least doable in large urban areas, in commercial venues or at commercial venues such as shopping malls and whatnot, because these malls also have security. Um, but just an independent public bathroom, the likes of which we're used to in the first world and Europe overall, as well as the rest of the first world. Um, I remember around the early 2000s having seen a public bathroom that was donated by, in the examples case that I'm thinking of, the Netherlands, and it was donated to the aforementioned cesspool. And what ended up happening is that in, I think, only less than a couple of months' time, the bathroom was vandalized by the local population. And the local population was so resourceful and possessed so much ingenuity to the point where they essentially wrote something to the equivalent of hear ye, come see all modern day art expositions in said bathroom. And they wrote all of that with their own feces, as well as covering literally the entire bathroom with their own feces. And yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed these colorful tales, and until next time, bye.